This is the Sociologist, where we explore the social, political, and psychological sciences of what makes us human. Today we'll be talking about Algerian boxer Imane Khelif, who has been competing in the 2024 Olympic Games in women's boxing. Imane Khelif has been drawing criticism due to gender identity and a lot of ire and accusations about being transgender or a man or having higher than normal testosterone levels within a competitive arena. Now, Imane Khelif is from Algeria. Algeria has outlawed homosexuality as well as gender transitioning. We have photos. We have seen her grow up a woman as a girl her entire life. She started boxing as an athlete at a younger age against her father's wishes. However, she's still on speaking terms with her father. She has female in her Algerian passport. Speculatively, there's no way she ever had been transgender, could be transgender in the nation of her heritage. Let's examine this from an athletic competitive standpoint. Going into the 2024 Olympics, Khelif had a 35-9 record, which is about a 74.3% win rate. She has lost to women, she has beaten women. She is therefore competitive. So Angela Carini, her first opponent from Italy at the Olympics, had an 84-22 record. This is about a 73.8% win rate. They're both right around 74% win rates in women's division throughout the entirety of each of their career. To many, this would look like athletic competitive parity. These are two people who have lost to people in that division. These are both people who have won championships in these divisions. They are exactly where they're supposed to be. Now, in that fight, it seems that Angela Carini broke her nose and had stated afterwards that she had never been hurt that badly with each punch as she had in that fight. To anyone out there that has broken their nose, particularly in combat sports where you are probably getting hit again, it amplifies the sharpness of the pain radically. It does not feel good, and it focuses all of your attention onto that very painful spot, which is a nice tender little bit of cartilage in your face. It's understandable. So retreating back into their athletic past, Imane Khelif competed at the World Games in 2023, got all the way to gold, and then had an override from the president of the IBA, the International Boxing Association, who at the time was the sanctioning body. They were the ones making rules, providing the judges, and the criteria for the athletes to compete under. Now, there have been no details about the nature of why Imane Khelif was overridden to be disqualified in there. There were not any levels of testosterone. There were not any reports of performance-enhancing drugs. There was no affirmation or confirmation to any gender tests. The only thing we had seen at that time was that it was an override from the president on down. Now, this could look as favoritism. This could look like bias. This could look like petty drama. Imane Khelif was not the only athlete to be disqualified that year. There was also a female boxer from Taiwan as well that has been facing similar scrutiny. Now, the International Boxing Association has long faced allegations of corruption, of favoritism, of undue process and conduct. The IBA usually had been the ones to be the governing, sanctioning body for the Olympic Committee, for the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, on what judging criteria to use, what athletic criteria to use, what weight classes, etc., etc. They have been removed from that status. They had been removed from that status since 2021 due to their misguided conduct in the eyes of the Olympics. So the Olympics has currently been operating under a special committee that is currently temporary, operating as the sanctioning body. Why are sanctioning bodies important? Sanctioning bodies are the professionals who operate more than just once every 4 years that provide the rules and regulations as well as the criteria for competition in the Olympics. For example, in track and aquatics, the sanctioning bodies for those sports do regulate how much testosterone and how to measure it within the athletes' bodies. In women's athletics, this currently is set for track and aquatics at 2.5 nanomoles per liter. This may be different than some of the numbers that we are used to hearing in measuring testosterone because much of the rest of the world also uses the measuring of nanograms per deciliter. So even right there, we have a mix and match of different ways to measure how much testosterone. How are we going to measure? Are we going to measure in moles? Are we going to measure in grams? Are we going to measure it by concentration? Are we going to measure it against body weight? All of these things are what a sanctioning body can do. Now, without a sanctioning body, there currently is not any testosterone measuring for the female athletes at the Olympics in 2024 in Paris. So testosterone levels are just one eligibility criteria for the athletes to be able to compete, period, in the Olympics, similar to performance-enhancing drugs and other things like that, to make someone eligible for competition. Now, in the divisions, we have the weight divisions. We also have the sex divisions in the Olympics currently. So the sanctioning bodies are also the ones that will agree upon how an athlete weighs in for wrestling, for boxing, for judo, whether they have an outfit or not, what is allowed to be worn, what is not allowed to be worn, when they weigh in, if there's a hydration clause, things like that, and the matter of disqualification if an athlete fails their weigh-in. Similar to that, we also are divided currently by sex. The Olympics currently uses an athlete's passport to determine what sex division that an athlete is competing in. Passports, at least in the US, have male, female, and newly, I believe, X as gender options. The Olympics only accepts male and female athletes. If you are confirmed by your country to be of that sex and have the documentation for it, that's good enough for the Olympics. So this is another thing where it's a little different between the division that Khelif was competing in against the alleged testosterone levels and things like that that are not currently known or measured. However, any accusations against Khelif would have had a number with that. We would have known, oh, she measured at 3.1 nanomoles per liter in the 2023 Olympics, if that had been a legitimate test on posterity on the record. Now, some of the social structures around the iron associations that Khelif had been drawing as a female competitor within the world of boxing on the Olympic stage, the most arguably the prestigious arena out there to compete in as a competitor, as an athlete, are interesting to look into as well. Very often, women, particularly when they excel in something, very particularly in athletics, draw a lot of criticism, draw a lot of ire. Success and athletic prowess are generally positively associated with men and masculinity. So it is seen as, if you're succeeding, you must have been a man. Oh, or maybe you slept with a man. Men safeguard the gatekeeping to success, is the association drawn there. Female and women athletes who have competed or even been successful in a personal, professional setting as well probably are familiar with this stigma and with these associations, all of the baggage that comes along with it. Another aspect from the social sciences to analyze here is something called the cognitive neo-association theory of aggression. This analyzes human tendencies to flock, to herd in groups in social settings. When we see the people around us, when we see large groups of people all behave one way at a particular person, we start to also adopt those attitudes. We also start to adopt those kind of actions against that person, against that demographic, whether it be a socioeconomic status, a race, a gender. We will start to kind of flock towards that. Now, what happens with this is there are comorbid risk factors for victimhood and for targets of aggression. If you are a woman, if you are someone of color, if you are a Muslim, if you are a female athlete, these are all circles, these are all targets of aggression. that then start to build a Venn diagram with one another. The larger that target in this Venn diagram of how many different risk factors you may have, your gender, your race, your class, your religion, the greater chance you have of all of them becoming dogpiled and hyperfixated on aggression with that. It very often is not conscious. Again, within this neo-associative model of aggression, we don't know why we're treating that person that way, but my dad did, my brothers did, the rest of my town all picked on that person, so we just pick on them. That's just how it was. So in this case, Imane Khelif is a woman. She is a female athlete. She's a person of color, and she is from a religious minority, at least one that is currently drawing a lot of aggression in cultures around the world. Those are four very large Venn diagrams to paint a target on her back in the media and in groups. When we see other people, particularly with the speed of internet and social media these days, it is very easy to not think about these things critically, to not think about what we are measuring a woman, an athlete, a person by, and draw our conclusions associating ourselves with the groupthink rather than ourselves. So hopefully some of these things may have been new to you, some other things to think about, different perspectives as an athlete, as a sanctioning body, as society, to give us some more perspectives, some more illumination on this topic regarding this one single athlete. Thank you very much for watching.